So building the company. So it probably helps to unpack the three principles a little bit, just to understand, because that's how we built our culture. But I'll do that in a second. So basically, we bootstrapped the whole thing. So we maxed out our credit card, drained our bank account, withdrew from our 401k, all in the height of a recession. Never been there before. Didn't have any investors. Didn't have any connections. No patents. No degrees. Nothing. So like what I'm saying is we shouldn't have done it. But we just didn't know that we shouldn't have done it. I
Yeah.
always say that Citibank was my investor, but that's just because I paid insane interest on the credit card. They didn't get any equity or any options or anything like that. So in 2010, I left Dell and we really started to grow the business. And so our core customer was hospital systems, and our value. We were B2B2C software as a service company where any patient could go onto a hospital website and schedule an appointment online from a mobile device. And we bootstrapped that business and we got a big break. And I tell a story in my book and in my TED talk that I won't necessarily reproduce here, but we got a huge national system that was really interested in expanding when we only had 7 hospitals. And we worked tirelessly on that expansion. And then the night that we got the yes is also the night that our software failed at their hospital. And we are contractually obligated to let them know. And so without going into like all the detail of the story, that was like the first moment in building this business where I had to really put my 3 principles to the test. And so if we talk about the principles real quick, because we built a whole culture around these, and that's why we were successful. Practice rigorous authenticity. You called it out. So authenticity is a check the box. Everybody can talk about the time they kept it real in front of grandma or whatever. Rigorous authenticity is no matter what's at stake, no matter who's in the room. And so when our software failed, the patient didn't know, the hospital didn't know, the health system didn't know, but we knew. And my partner told me I shouldn't tell them, but we are contractually obligated to tell them within 24 hours. And so rigorous authenticity is identifying the mask that you want to wear. And there are 4 masks that all professionals wear. And one of them is hiding a weakness. And so I wanted to hide the weakness of my startup that we had had a failure because I was scared of what would happen. So practicing rigorous authenticity is saying, okay, I'm going to be authentic no matter what. But that doesn't actually empower anyone to actually go do it. That's just inspiration. That's great. Who cares? The next one is surrender the outcome, because that's why we sell ourselves out. That's why we wear masks. That's why we hide weaknesses. That's why we don't show our true selves. That's why we're scared to tell our story, because we're scared of what's going to happen if we do. And in this instance, me sharing that my startup had failed and our software had failed, the outcome I was worried about was losing the contract. I was scared about not only losing the contract, but it would mean that we would be financially ruined. My employees would be gone. I would be bankrupt. And the mission that we had signed up for would be unfulfilled. And so you have to learn how to surrender the outcome. And that's the thing that most leaders don't know how to do. Like, we're obsessed with outcomes, but we've all seen like salespeople that are focusing on things that they can't control at the expense of the things that they can. All leaders are doing that. They're wasting a tremendous amount of energy doing that. Drug addicts, when you enter recovery, they beat it into us that we have to learn how to surrender because we can't control our addiction. So we can't control that we're an addict, but we can control whether we take the steps in recovery. So when this happened, I realized I couldn't control that the problem had happened. I couldn't control what my partner thought. I couldn't control what would happen, but I could control whether I identified the problem and we fixed it. I could control whether I led myself, and I could control whether I built a relationship on trust or risked losing everything, but it stuck to my morals. And so I was able to surrender the outcome in this instance and say, we're going to tell them. And what happens is when you practice rigorous authenticity and you identify what you're hiding, and you practice surrender the outcome, and you learn how to let go of it by transferring your focus from can't control to can control, then uncomfortable work becomes possible. And a lot of people will say, Mike, I know how to do uncomfortable work. And I'll be like, no, you don't. You know how to do smart work and hard work. That's physical and intellectual. Uncomfortable work is emotional. It's literally a sensation in your body that stops you from doing something that's good for you. We've all seen someone doing 8 hours of hard work, avoiding 5 to 10 minutes of uncomfortable work. Performance management and negotiations with customers or investors are 2 of the best examples I can think of. And so when you identify your mask, in this instance, mine was hiding my weakness, and you surrender the outcome, what was going to happen to my startup, uncomfortable work becomes clear. And I realized that I could go to some of the people that were my mentors and ask them, how do I tell this customer what's going on? and go to a lawyer and say, what are the implications of what I do? And by focusing exclusively on what I could control, I identified my uncomfortable work. I told the customer. And then when I told them, they laughed at me because they were like, you only impacted one patient? And I was like, yeah, I thought that was the end of the world. They're like, dude, when we get a call like this, it's because you've impacted 20,000. This makes us trust you. Yeah. And so that was like the moment that I had to put everything on the line, practice these principles like muscle memory. And it didn't kill the company. It built the company. And the most important thing is not the fact that we went from thousands in revenue to millions with that one contract. It's that I got to tell every employee that came to work for me that story.